What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from the Token Minorities, and I am back with the Round 4 Top 4 battle of the Surge format Summer Showdown All-Star Tournament. This week we are against John W., coach of the Indiana Keldeos, and the representative from LD League Dependency. Make sure to go check them out. I don't believe they have a YouTube channel or anything for their league, but I know they have a very strong community. So if you want to check them out, I would highly encourage that. Also make sure to check out my opponent and his upload. He'll be linked down in the description below. Now, let's talk a little bit about the transactions that we made for this round before we jump into the team builder and the battle, as we made several transactions for this round. We were given 15 extra points to spend on Pokemon for this round, in addition to 4 transaction slots to be able to do that. So the mons that actually are exiting the team for this game are, unfortunately, Munchlax. Munchlax is going to be gone here for this match, unfortunately. And then Swampert actually was dropped, and I'll explain why in just a second, but I did drop Swampert, so Drax exits the team. Volcanion is gone because it matched up pretty horribly against what John W. has on his roster. And Little Rotom went away as well, as I felt like it wasn't really necessary anymore. But replacing those mons are some real powerhouses. I picked up Zapdos to pretty much directly replace the Rotom slot. It makes a lot of sense in that slot. Seismitoad to swap out in place of the Swampert, mainly for that water absorb ability. My opponent has access to a Suicune in this matchup, so it made a lot of sense to have a Seismitoad instead of the Swampert. And then I picked up Celebi because it matched up really well against his team despite having already Roserade on my roster. It just made a lot of sense here, and you can see the set in front of you right now that I'm bringing for this matchup, and let me tell you, it's really good against him. And then I picked up Mega Houndoom in my last slot, just an upgrade from Houndoom earlier on in the tournament. I really like the speed tier. My team was already kind of designed with a Houndoom in mind, so it just made sense to go ahead and pick up the Mega here at this point in the tournament. So now let's take a look at my opponent's roster. So he has access to Zeraora, Silvally, Latios, Clefable, Snorlax, Mega Garchomp, and Suicune. So he has a very fat team with some pretty scary breakers and some fast stuff as well. The Latios and Zeraora are both very quick Pokemon. They're both able to do a lot of damage and pack a variety of coverage for my team, for any team. They're just really good Pokemon in general. His Z Captain is his Zeraora, which actually, in my opinion, is a lot better for me. I'm surprised he didn't try to do Latios for his Z Captain, as that would have put a lot more pressure on me for my builds, having to always consider the option of like Z Shadow Ball for my Celebi or for my Gardevoir that otherwise are pretty good switch-ins to Latios depending on my set. So that part I'm pretty happy about, but Z Zeraora also has, you know, its own niches, its own ways where it could be a big issue for my team, and I'll just have to keep that in mind whenever I move through my team build. I think the Silvally, if he brings it, is definitely going to be Silvally Steel, just because he doesn't have a Moonblast switch-in if he doesn't bring Silvally Steel. Otherwise, his only Moonblast switch-in is really his Snorlax, because otherwise I could just run something like Specs Gardevoir, which does look pretty nice against his team, not gonna lie. And he would have a very bad time if he did not have a Steel Silvally. So I am expecting that to come in this game, and I am going to kind of counter prep expecting that here as well here in the team that I'm bringing. So yeah, I expect to see these Silvally, I expect to see these Zeraora, Latios, Snorlax, and Mega Garchomp. I think all those are guaranteed. I feel like the last 2 mons, either the Clefable or the Suicune, are kind of up in the air. That slot is mainly going to probably be his Hawlucha response, as otherwise Hawlucha can do a lot of damage to his team if I get up to +2 with my Unburden. So I think one of those 2 mons are going to be more defensive, and they'll be his primary response to the Hawlucha. So just a few thoughts about his team before I jump into the team that I'm bringing here for this matchup, and let's go ahead and take a look at this. So I'm starting this off with the Celebi, Calm Mind, Psychic, Toxic, and Recover. Basically can and beat his entire team down. His only real counter to this would be an unaware Clefable, except for the fact that I have Toxic. Okay, so the only way he really can counter this is if somehow Clefable is able to run like Heal Bell, Calm Mind of his own, and then like Moonblast, I guess, and then Recovery, and in which case I have Roserade that can hard counter as well. So there's he really struggles against this Pokemon. It's able to 1v1 pretty much his entire team with relative ease, honestly. There are certain ways he can play around it and build around it, but I feel like he has to expect this specific set to be able to do that. So with all that said, I really expect this to put in a lot of work here in this game. And then next up is my Seismitoad, basically designed to be my Suicune counter. Sure, the Suicune can run Hidden Power Grass if it wants to, but this is designed to make sure that if he brings Suicune, it's going to be hindered by the fact that it has to also run, basically that it has to run Rest without Sleep Talk. If he runs a Rest Sleep Talk Suicune, there's no way it's going to be able to beat this Seismitoad set in addition to the grass types on my team. Okay, that's the general idea. I'm bringing both my grass types and the Seismitoad, and a set like this really is able to ensure that Suicune can't get out of hand against my team. There's no chance that it can. So I'm running a little extra attack investment just to ensure the knockout with Earthquake against the Zeraora. I have Power Up Punch to abuse a Suicune that has to go for a rest, as I think the best set he could possibly bring. If he brings Suicune, I don't think he's going to bring Suicune, but he might. The best set he could bring is going to be a Rest set that does not have Sleep Talk because he needs all 3 other move slots. So having Power Up Punch on this ensures that I'll be able to 1v1 a set like that. So that's the idea behind the Seismitoad, as you can see, nicknamed Hulk because Shiny Seismitoad kind of looks like Hulk actually, and Celebi is just named Mantis, which I think is pretty appropriate. So then I have my Cobalion War Machine, which is coming in as my lead in this game, pretty much a guaranteed lead. It's able to anti-lead the Mega Garchomp as well as actually anti-lead the Latios as well, if that's something he wants to lead with. It's not great against the Latios necessarily, but what it'll allow me to do is get off a huge hit with an Adamant Z Iron Head, which can knock out the Latios, actually almost guaranteed if he's like a Life Orb variant, which I think is probably the most likely set for him, so we can do the most damage with his Shadow Balls against my Celebi and my Gardevoir. That'll allow me to deal with that, and if he leads with Mega Garchomp, which is his other most likely lead in my opinion, I have the Magnet Rise to ensure that I'll be able to get up my Stealth Rock safely against that. Even if he gets up his own, my team is not really weak to Stealth Rock, while Stealth Rocks are just really good, I think, in terms of wearing down his Mons into range of some of my offensive threats. So then the combination Iron Head and Sacred Sword are able to hit his entire team really hard, the only exception being Suicune, but my team is able to pressure Suicune a lot naturally, so I'm not really concerned about that. But basically, yeah, if I can get rid of the Latios especially, this thing can go really, really nuts against his team for sure. Sacred Sword is nice for a potential Cursed Snorlax. Sacred Sword obviously being able to ignore the boosts from the curse that the Snorlax will probably run if it's not going to be like an Assault Vest variant. I think those are the 2 most likely Snorlax sets to see here in this matchup. So again, an Adamant Nature on this just to make sure I can 2-hit KO Clefable with an Iron Head. So then I have my Gardevoir, which is kind of an interesting set here, and I'll try to explain the idea behind this, as it is it's very much so tailored to how I think the battle is going to actually play out. Basically what I'm expecting to happen is that my Cobalion is going to probably take a lot of damage early in the game as I'm going for Stealth Rock, or maybe against the Latios as I'm trying to go for the kill. With a Z Iron Head, I'll probably take like a Psychic or something in the process. So what that means is that Cobalion can win the game, but I need to have a little extra health on it to be able to take a hit from something like his Zeraora that would be able to outspeed me otherwise. So by having Healing Wish on the Gardevoir, that means that I'll be able to heal that thing up basically at any time during the game whenever I need it. And that's like the most likely reasoning behind having Healing Wish, but obviously Healing Wish is always just a good move to have on a team. But then I have Moonblast, which is nice and spammable against his team, especially if he opts to not bring the Silvally Steel, as then he wouldn't just wouldn't have a resist to Moonblast. So that's definitely nice, even without any investment. It does a good chunk of damage to his whole team. Taunt to help me wear down the Clefable, or at least keep it low in range of my other mons on my team. Also, just taunting his team in general is good because he has a lot of like bulky Calm Mind users or just bulky mons in general that I really want to force to attack me. And Will-O-Wisp is nice for his two best switches to Gardevoir being the Snorlax or the Silvally Steel. Getting a Will-O-Wisp off on those Pokemon really helps my Celebi try to win the whole game. So that combination, Celebi plus the Gardevoir, I think is really potent here in this matchup for sure. So that is the Gardevoir. I have Hoppa Berry just to allow me to get a bunch of health back whenever I need it. I thought it was better than something like Leftovers just because of I don't think I'm going to take too many hits, you know, but the couple hits that I want to take, I want to like get my health back right away. I'm not going to like leave Gardevoir in for a long period of time. I'm just going to try to support my team basically and get my health back whenever I think I need it, or whenever the time comes, I'll get my health back from the berries. So then I also have the Hawlucha moving into some of my faster mons here on this team. This is meant to take advantage of the Zeraora. Basically, it puts him in a position where he has to either attack me with Zeraora and risk popping my Wakan Berry and thus my Unburden, or he has to switch out his Zeraora into one of his more defensive threats. And if he switches into a defensive threat, that defensive threat can never recover or Calm Mind against me because I have Encore. And that defensive threat probably has to fear me being at +2 and clicking a really powerful high jump kick or acrobatics. So this is just a really good mon against his team. His only real offensive check to this is the Zeraora. And if he's already burned his Z move in the matchup, then he literally has to click an electric move to be able to knock me out, or even like conceive of knocking me out basically. This just helps a lot against that. So yeah, just a solid mon against him overall. The defense investment allows me to survive a Z Iron Tail from an Adamant Zeraora, which I think is the most likely Z move for him to bring in this matchup. And then finally I have the Roserade, just a pretty standard Choice Scarf modest Roserade, able to outspeed his entire team. The only exception being a max speed Zeraora, but again I think he's going to be Adamant just due to the speed tiers in this matchup. Spikes are nice to help wear down the Silvally Steel if that's what he decides to bring, as that thing is pretty annoying to wear down for my team, so Spikes could definitely be nice for that. So that is the team for this match, and now let's jump on over to the battle itself. So my opponent John W decided to bring the Snorlax, Clefable, Zeraora, Latios, Mega Garchomp, and the Suicune, so there's no Silvally, which actually is really nice for my whole team. He doesn't have much at all to deal with my Celebi. He doesn't have much at all to deal with Scarf Roserade or my Gardevoir. All those mons are freed up a lot because he opted to not bring these Silvally Steel. So those are the three mons I really have my eye on immediately in this game. Cobalion could also become a win condition, definitely if I'm able to get rid of the Suicune earlier on in the game, and we'll just see how that plays out here. But in terms of the lead, I've already talked about how I want to lead off with my Cobalion, as it should be able to anti-lead pretty much anything that he decides to lead with. And you know, let's just go ahead and jump on into this and see if we can advance to the championship of the Surge format tournament. So I'm going to lead off with my Cobalion as he leads off with the Mega Garchomp. I have Magnet Rise exactly for this reason. I'm just going to go ahead and click Magnet Rise as he sets up the Stealth Rock, allowing me to go ahead and get up my own Stealth Rocks on the next turn as he goes into Suicune. Now here I'm going to go straight into my Roserade first, just to see what the Suicune wants to go for. I kind of expected him to go for like a Toxic on that turn, expecting me to go into my Seismitoad, but instead he opts to just go straight for the Calm Mind, followed up by an Ice Beam that I knew my Roserade could take, and I'm going to be able to knock him out with back-to-back Leaf Storms, which is fantastic, as here he checks me with his Latios. I'm just going to go into my Seismitoad. It's easily the least useful member of my team now that the Suicune is gone, and I know I can probably take any one hit from this, even if it is Calm Mind. The only way he'd be able to knock me out, at least guaranteed, would be if he is either a Specs Latios going for a Draco Meteor, or if he is like a going for a +1 Draco Meteor with like a Life Orb. I think even Specs might not have been able to take me out from that range. But anyways, I'm going to go for the knockoff. I'm going to pause, actually, because it's getting a little ahead of myself now. So I'll go for the knockoff to get rid of whatever its item is, and then he's able to go for a Roost to get some health back after I go for the knockoff, which is fine. I'm able to remove his Soul Dew, which is a pretty interesting prep on his part, because what that means is he's probably going to be Draco Meteor Psychic for his 2 coverage moves, since he already has revealed now to have both Calm Mind and Roost. He can only have 2 coverage moves, and I really thought he would have 3, including like Shadow Ball as well. So that's pretty interesting. I have to kind of keep an eye on that here throughout the game. But what I'm going to do is pull the switch into my Cobalion, expecting him to go for probably a Calm Mind of his own there on that turn. And I should be able to immediately threaten him with a Z Ironhead at that point. And that's exactly what I go for, but he makes a nice play and goes for the Roost, which basically takes him outside of range of my, my Corkscrew Crash, and forces me out here, but I know he's going to probably go for a Roost of his own, so that's an opportunity for me to go into my Hawlucha and Encore to threaten him out, or to force him out. And he's just going to make the play into his Clefable, goes for a Moonblast on my Hawlucha, switching into the Gardevoir, gets a critical hit, not the worst thing in the world, as I'm going to be able to taunt the incoming Snorlax and then burn it with my Will-O-Wisp, which is huge, because now this is set up fodder for my Celebi, and now my Cobalion switches into the Snorlax really freely later on in the game. So I'm going to just go straight into my Celebi now. I fear nothing from this, and he's probably going to try to switch out now into his Latios, as that's really his best switch into Celebi on his entire team, since he's opted to not bring the Savali Steels. I'm just going to go for a Calm Mind on the switch. He goes into his Latios, and I'm able to hit it with a Toxic, which is fantastic. This was easily the biggest threat to my team at this stage in the game, so getting a Toxic on that is really, really big for the late game, as this Celebi now should be able to 1v1 this Latios, as long as he doesn't, like, crit me or something. That'd be really unfortunate, but I do just get up two sets of Calm Minds, and now I'm just going to try to weaken this Latios down, and now at this point, I should just spam Recover over and over and over again, just to ensure that this Latios is not going to weaken me, guaranteed into range of probably a Revenge Kill from his Zeraora. That's basically what he probably has to try to do, and if I play this properly, he won't be able to do that. The Toxic is going to allow me to 1v1 the Latios. Fortunately, he does not get the critical hit, and the Latios goes down, as now he's forced to go into his Garchomp just to get the chip damage off on my Celebi that he needs to be able to offensively check me, as this thing is just putting so much work in against his entire team. Celebi's able to knock out another Mon on his team, as now he's going to go into his Zeraora. And I thought about preserving my Celebi, but at this point in the game, it made a lot more sense for me to just make him burn his Z move if he has it. I think he's going to be Z Iron Tail, but he actually turns out to be a Z... pause briefly. He actually turned out to be a Z Fire Punch, which does make a lot of sense for my team. I had a lot of mons that are weak to fire, so that definitely makes sense. But now that he has burned the Z move, it means that my Hawlucha is able to force it out more easily at this point. So what I'm going to do is I go into my Hawlucha to check the Zeraora, and basically he is forced to either attack me with an electric move and risk that I am a Wakanberry and basically get a free setup against the Zeraora, or he's forced to go into his Clefable and forced to allow me to whittle the Clefable down into range of my Cobalion, which is ultimately what I really want to do in this situation. Is the Cobalion, if you look across his team, is looking really, really good as a potential win con, but that Roserade also could be really good if I opt to Healing Wish up that, and since my Cobalion was able to stay at a high amount of health early on in the game, it means that Roserade is probably going to be my target of the Healing Wish here a little bit later on, and once I'm able to get the Snorlax a little more whittled, that Roserade should be able to clean up this game as well, as long as I don't let the Clefable get a bunch of Calm Minds. So I'm just going to go for an Acrobatics on the Clefable, and he just goes for a Calm Mind after I've already revealed Encore, so I think that was just a misplay on his end, and he's just going to pull the switch into Snorlax, basically admitting that, yeah, that was a mistake, and he's going to go back into his Clefable now, just granting me more chip damage on this, just further solidifying the fact that my Cobalion will be able to immediately check this Clefable here on the following turn. Just going to go for the Acrobatics, sack off my Hawlucha, get this thing under half, and now I'm going to make the play into my Gardevoir, just because I think this is going to be my best possible opportunity to get the Healing Wish off for my Roserade. And he's probably going to preserve his Clefable anyway, so it should be a pretty free Healing Wish here into my Roserade, so I am able to heal that back up. He goes into his Snorlax. That's perfectly fine. When I burned that thing earlier, like I said before, it meant that I can always switch my Cobalion freely into the Snorlax at any period of time, and because I have the Sacred Sword, I'm able to always beat this Snorlax 1v1, which is fantastic. And now he's in a position where he has to sacrifice one of his mons on his team. He does opt to sack off the Clefable, and now comes the Zeraora. I see the end game in my sights. All I have to do is get my Roserade in safely against this Zeraora. I should be able to outspeed this. The damage calc showed that he's probably an Adamant Zeraora, And as a result, I'm going to be able to go into my rows right now. He actually goes for CC to knock out my Seismitoad, which is great because now I can just go for Sludge Bomb instead of risking a Leaf Storm, and now because all he has left is the Snorlax and he is burned, I can just go hard into my Cobalion and I'll be able to just click Sacred Sword a few times here to knock out the Snorlax, and your Kansas City Jirachiefs are going to win the game and advance into the finals of the Summer Showdown All-Star Surge Tournaments. A great game to my opponent, John W. Again, make sure to check out his channel and check out his side of the battle that should be uploaded here shortly. Again, he'll be linked down in the description below. This was a really, really good game. It was a fun game for sure. And it kind of came down to the wire. I felt like I had a little bit of a matchup advantage here just based upon the amount of kind of like Fattermons that he had on his team and the amount of ways I had to deal with Fattermons. But even so, it was a really good game, a really competitive game, and yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. So we're moving on to the finals, and we're going to be facing Techno, who actually was, he did very well in the GBAD League. He is repping the Hive. He is probably the best player in the Hive, in my opinion. And it's definitely going to be a good match for sure. I personally rate him in the definitely in the top 10 of draft players, possibly in the top 5 as well, just in the entire community. So it's going to be a challenge for sure, but I am definitely looking forward to it, and I hope you guys are as well. So your KC Jirachiefs are in the finals, and I hope you'll come out and support when that comes around as well. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all next time. Peace.